I sold my bakery business for $4.2 million and told no one. Not my bridge group, not my church ladies, not even my daughter Rachel. Especially not Rachel. The cashier's check sat in my safe deposit box at Olympia Credit Union, like a secret, like a question I didn't know I was asking until I needed the answer. It was a Tuesday morning when Rachel showed up at my house. I was in the garden, deadheading my roses, the same roses I'd planted when her father and I bought this place 32 years ago. The same garden where she used to help me pick tomatoes as a little girl, her small hands careful with the fruit. I hadn't seen her in 3 years. Not since the funeral. Not since she blamed me for her father's heart attack, said I'd worked him to death helping me build the bakeries. The doorbell rang twice, then her key turned in the lock. I'd forgotten she still had a key. "Mom?" Her voice called out, uncertain. "I'm in the back," I answered, pulling off my gardening gloves. When I came inside, she was standing in my kitchen with a man I'd never seen before. Rachel looked older, thinner. Her blonde hair was cut short now in that expensive way that's supposed to look effortless. The man was tall, tan, wearing a golf shirt with a logo I didn't recognize. "Mom, this is Derek." "Derek, my mom, Dorothy. We're engaged." She said it like she was announcing the weather. No build-up, no warmth. Derek shook my hand with a grip that was too firm, too practiced. "Mrs. Mitchell, Rachel's told me so much about you." I seriously doubt that, I thought, but I smiled. I made coffee in the same percolator I'd used for 40 years. Rachel walked around my house touching things, her eyes moving constantly. "Your place is exactly the same," she said. "Don't you ever want to update?" "This house suits me fine," I told her. We sat at my kitchen table, the one her father had refinished 3 times over the years. Rachel talked about her job at a marketing firm in Seattle, about Derek's real estate development company, about their plans for a destination wedding in Cabo. She talked for an hour without asking me a single question. As they were leaving, Rachel hugged me. It felt wooden, like hugging a mannequin. "We should do this more often, Mom. I've been terrible about staying in touch." Derek added, "Family is so important, especially as we get older." I watched them drive away in Derek's silver BMW. Something felt wrong. Not wrong like anger. Wrong like dread. Like standing at the top of a staircase in the dark, knowing there's a step missing somewhere below. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Rachel's eyes as they moved around my house. She wasn't remembering. She was calculating. They came back 4 days later. Then a week after that. Then it became every weekend. Rachel would bring expensive wine I didn't drink and talk about her life while Derek checked his phone and occasionally interjected comments about market values and investment opportunities. During their 3rd visit, I excused myself to use the bathroom upstairs. I left the fan running but stood quietly in the hallway, listening to them in my living room below. "How much longer do I have to do this?" Rachel's voice, sharp with irritation. "Just be patient, baby." Derek's tone was soothing. "We need to build trust first. She's sitting on prime real estate and doesn't even realize it. This neighborhood has gone insane. Houses are selling for $800,000 minimum. Does she have any savings? There has to be something. She ran those bakeries for what, 25 years? Where's all that money?" "Well, it's certainly not in her wardrobe," Rachel said, and they both laughed. That hurt more than it should have. "Look," Derek continued, "my buddy at the bank says elderly single women are the easiest. They're lonely, they want family around, they're not thinking clearly about finances. We just need her to sign a power of attorney. For her protection, of course." "Of course," Rachel echoed. I flushed the toilet, washed my hands, looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. My face was pale, my hands were shaking. I was 67 years old and my daughter was planning to rob me. When I came back downstairs, they were both smiling. "Mom, we were just saying," Rachel began, "you're getting to that age where managing everything must be overwhelming. This big house, the yard, the bills." Derek leaned forward. "Rachel's worried about you being alone. Have you thought about what happens if you get sick, if you fall?" "I'm fine," I said quietly. "But what if you're not?" Rachel pressed. "What if something happens and we can't reach you? We've been looking into some options." She pulled out a brochure for Heritage Hills Senior Living. "Beautiful grounds," she said. "Meals included, activities, medical staff on site. It would give us such peace of mind. This is my home, I said. I've lived here for 32 years. Mom, be realistic. This house is too much for one person. And honestly, the value has gone up so much, you could sell it and have plenty of money for a nice facility. After they left, I sat in the rocking chair my husband had made for me when Rachel was born. I thought about the bakery I'd built from nothing, starting in this very kitchen at 3 in the morning, testing recipes until they were perfect. I thought about working 70-hour weeks while raising Rachel alone after her father had his first heart attack and couldn't work anymore. I thought about paying for her college, her car, her apartment when she started her first job. And I thought about the business sale I'd closed 6 months ago. Dutch Hill Bakeries, 5 locations, sold to a regional chain, $4.2 million. The lawyers and accountants had been discreet. The sale wasn't public record. I'd told no one. I'd been planning to surprise Rachel, to give her and her future husband a generous wedding gift, to help them with a house. Now I knew exactly what kind of help they wanted. The next morning I called Betty Moreno, my old business partner who'd retired to become a CPA. Betty had sold me her share of the business 10 years ago, but we'd remained close. Betty, I said when she answered, I need your help. I need to know who my daughter really is. I told her everything. The sudden visits, the conversations I'd overheard, the senior living brochures, the questions about my finances. I told her about the $4.2 million sitting untouched in my accounts. I told her I needed to test Rachel before I made any decisions about what to do with that money. Betty was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, I have an idea. It's not kind, but it's honest. We met at her office the next afternoon. She explained her plan. We would create a situation where I appeared to be in serious financial trouble. We would see how Rachel reacted when she thought there was nothing to gain and maybe something to lose. Only after that would I decide what to do with my money. It's a trap, Betty said, but it's a fair one. I agreed. The following week, I called Rachel. I kept my voice worried, stressed. Honey, I need to talk to you about something serious. Can you and Derek come by this weekend? They arrived on Saturday morning. Both of them had that same look, concern mixed with something else. Anticipation. What's wrong, Mom? Rachel sat next to me on the couch, her hand on my arm. I wrung my hands, playing the part Betty and I had rehearsed. I got a letter from the county. They're reassessing property taxes. My taxes are going to triple. Triple? Derek repeated. That's unusual, but not unheard of in appreciating neighborhoods. I can't afford it, I said, letting my voice crack. My pension and Social Security cover my basic bills now, but 3 times the property taxes? And the roof needs replacing. The inspector says it's going to cost $45,000. I don't have that kind of money. Rachel was very quiet. Then she said, Mom, I wish I could help, but Derek and I are stretched thin. We're saving for the wedding, and Derek's development project is in a crucial phase. We just don't have $45,000 to spare. I understand, I said quickly. I wasn't asking for money. I just needed to tell someone. I'm scared I might lose the house. Derek touched Rachel's hand. Maybe this is a sign, he said gently. Dorothy, what if you sold the house now, before the tax increase hits? You could probably still get a good price if you list it quickly. Yes, Rachel said, her voice brightening. You could move into Heritage Hills. You wouldn't have to worry about roofs or taxes or any of it, and we'd be nearby to visit all the time. They stayed for 2 hours, helping me find the Heritage Hills website, showing me floor plans for studio apartments, calculating what my house might sell for if I acted fast. They were so helpful, so concerned. After they left, I heard them in the driveway. Rachel's voice carried through my open window. Thank God she's finally being reasonable about this. Derek laughed. I know. I was worried we'd have to get a lawyer involved to prove she couldn't manage her affairs. That would have taken months. This is so much cleaner. Once she's in that facility and the house is sold, we can help her manage the proceeds. Help her manage, Rachel agreed. I stood at my window and watched them drive away. Then I called Betty. They took the bait. We moved to phase 2. Over the next 3 weeks, I played the part perfectly. I had Betty draw up fake paperwork showing mounting debts, late payment notices, threatening letters from the mortgage company that didn't exist because I'd paid off my house 15 years ago. I left these papers where Rachel would see them during her visits. I stopped maintaining the garden. I wore the same clothes multiple times without washing them. I talked about skipping meals to save money. Rachel and Derek visited twice a week now, always with more brochures, more advice, more pressure to sell. During one visit, Rachel went into the kitchen to make tea. Derek stayed with me in the living room. "Dorothy," he said, his voice low and confidential, "I want to talk to you about something. Rachel doesn't know I'm bringing this up, but I'm concerned." He leaned closer. "You're clearly struggling financially. You're too proud to ask for help. I get it, but there are solutions. If you gave me power of attorney, I could manage your affairs. Make sure bills get paid, handle the house sale, invest any proceeds wisely. It would take all the burden off you. You wouldn't have to worry about anything. I would never take advantage," he continued. "I love Rachel, and you're going to be my mother-in-law. This is what family does. They help each other." I looked at this man I'd met 4 weeks ago who was already trying to get control of what he thought was my meager remaining assets. "I should think about it," I said softly. "Absolutely. Take your time. But Dorothy, we should move quickly. The longer you wait, the worse your financial situation gets." Rachel came back with tea. Derek smiled at her, and she smiled back. They had a whole system worked out. I excused myself to use the bathroom. This time I went upstairs and called Betty from my bedroom. "They're asking for power of attorney." Betty's voice was grim. "That's financial abuse, Dorothy. Elder abuse, technically. Can you get them to put something in writing?" "I can try." That evening, after they left, I wrote an email to Rachel. I kept it simple, vulnerable. "Honey, Derek mentioned power of attorney today. I'm confused about what that means. Can you have him send me some information about it? I'd like to understand before I decide anything," she replied within an hour. "Mom, it just means someone you trust handles your finances, so you don't have to stress about it. Derek's really good at this stuff. I'll have him send over some forms. You just need to sign them and get them notarized. We can bring a notary to the house so you don't have to go anywhere." So easy, so helpful. The forms arrived 2 days later via email. Betty reviewed them and called me immediately. "Dorothy, these give them complete control. They could sell your house, empty your accounts, take out loans in your name. This is bad." "How bad?" "With these documents, they could strip you of everything within a week, and it would all be technically legal because you'd have signed the authorization." I felt sick. My own daughter, my only child, the baby I'd rocked to sleep 1,000 nights, the little girl I'd taught to read, the young woman I'd been so proud to watch graduate college. That night, I couldn't eat dinner. I sat in my kitchen and cried. Not for the money. I'd already decided they'd never see a penny of it. I cried for the daughter I'd lost somewhere along the way, the one who'd been replaced by this stranger who saw me as nothing but an asset to be liquidated. Then I dried my tears, called Betty, and we finalized our plan. The next day, I called Rachel. My voice was shaky, uncertain. "Honey, I need you to come over. I've made a decision." She and Derek arrived within the hour. They sat on my couch, documents ready, a notary Derek had brought waiting in the car outside. "Mom," Rachel said, squeezing my hand, "you're doing the right thing. This will make everything so much easier." I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. When had she become someone I didn't recognize? "I found some papers in your father's old desk," I said slowly. "Papers I'd forgotten about, insurance policies." "What?" Rachel's face went carefully blank. "Your father had a life insurance policy through the bakery. It paid out when he died. The grief counselor told me not to make any big decisions for a year, so I just put the check in a drawer and forgot about it." "How much?" Derek asked, too quickly. "After taxes, $460,000. The number was a lie, but it was believable." Rachel's eyes went wide. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was grieving," I said. "And then time passed, and I didn't think about it. But with all these money problems, I remembered. I went to the bank yesterday. The account is still there. $460,000. Just sitting there." Derek was already calculating. I could see it in his eyes. "Dorothy, this changes everything. You're not broke at all. You can fix your roof, Pay your taxes, stay in your house. Actually, Rachel interrupted, her voice sharp, maybe this is a sign. Mom, you need to be smart about this money. Invest it properly, not waste it on an old house. Derek nodded eagerly. I could set up a trust, manage the funds, make sure they last for your care as you age. This money should go toward Heritage Hills, Rachel continued. A nice facility, proper care. You don't need this big house anymore. Sign the power of attorney and we'll handle everything. I watched my daughter try to manipulate me into giving her control of money she thought I had, money that didn't even exist the way I described it. And I realized Betty was right. This was elder abuse, financial exploitation. My own child was trying to rob me. I stood up slowly. Rachel, Derek, I need you to leave. What? Rachel looked confused. Why? Because I heard you, I said quietly. My voice was steady now, clear. I heard you 3 weeks ago talking about manipulating a lonely old woman. I heard you planning to get power of attorney. I heard you, Derek, tell Rachel that elderly single women are the easiest to take advantage of. Rachel's face went white. Mom, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You haven't come to see me because you missed me or love me. You came because you think I'm sitting on valuable real estate. You think I'm stupid and senile and easy to control. Derek stood up. Now wait a minute. No, you wait. I looked at him. I've never seen you before a month ago, and you're already trying to get legal control of my finances. That's elder abuse. I could report you. You're crazy, Rachel said, but her voice was shaking. You're paranoid. Am I? I pulled out my phone. I'd recorded their conversation from 3 weeks ago, the one from my living room. Betty had helped me set up a voice-activated recorder hidden in the bookshelf. I played it back. Their voices filled my living room, crystal clear. How much longer do I have to do this? Just be patient, baby. Elderly single women are the easiest. They're lonely. They're not thinking clearly. The recording went on for 3 minutes. When it ended, the silence was deafening. Get out of my house, I said. Both of you, right now. Mom, please, don't contact me again. Don't call, don't email, don't come by. You're not welcome here anymore. But I'm your daughter. Are you? Because a daughter would care if her mother was struggling. A daughter would offer help without expecting something in return. A daughter would love her mother even if she had nothing. You don't love me, Rachel. You love what you thought you could get from me. Derek grabbed Rachel's arm. Let's go. She tried to pull away from him. Mom, you're making a mistake. The only mistake I made was believing you'd changed from the selfish little girl who always wanted everything her way. Now get out before I call the police. They left. Derek practically dragged Rachel out the door. I watched from my window as they argued in the driveway, Rachel crying, Derek angry. Then they drove away, and I was alone in my house. I sat down in my rocking chair and let myself feel it all. The grief, the betrayal, the loss. My only child, the baby I'd loved more than anything. Gone. Not dead, but dead to me. After a while, I called Betty. It's done. How do you feel? Like I did the right thing. Like it hurts anyway. The next day, I received an email from a law firm I'd never heard of. They were representing Rachel Mitchell in a claim against her mother, Dorothy Mitchell, for financial abuse, theft of marital assets, and violation of implied family contract. They claimed I'd hidden money from Rachel that was rightfully hers. They demanded I provide full accounting of my finances going back 20 years. I forwarded it to Betty. She called me back laughing. They have no case. No case at all. There's no such thing as implied family contract in Washington state, and you haven't hidden anything. You just didn't tell her about money that's yours. What do I do? Nothing. Let me respond. I'll make it clear that any further harassment will result in us filing a restraining order and reporting their attempted financial exploitation to Adult Protective Services. Betty sent her response that afternoon. I never heard from that law firm again. But I did hear from Rachel one more time, 3 weeks later. An envelope arrived, handwritten address, no return label. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Mom, it began. I don't know if you'll read this. You probably hate me. I probably deserve it. Derek left me. Turns out he was only interested in the money he thought you had. When he found out you weren't going to be easy to manipulate, he ended our engagement. Said I was too much drama, that my family situation was a liability. I lost my job too. The company found out about the legal claim against you. They said it showed poor judgment and let me go. I'm staying with a friend in Tacoma. I'm broke. I'm alone, and I know I have no right to ask for anything. But Mom, I'm desperate. If you could just help me with rent for a few months until I get back on my feet. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer with all the other memories I was choosing to let go of. I wrote one letter back. I kept it short. Rachel, I hope you find your way. I hope you learn that people are not resources to mine for profit. I hope you become someone who loves without expecting a return on investment. But I can't be part of your life anymore. What you did wasn't a mistake. It was a series of deliberate choices. And I'm making my choice now. I choose peace. I choose dignity. I choose myself. I've spent my whole life taking care of you. It's time to take care of me. I wish you well, but from a distance. Mom. I never heard from her again. Now I wake up in my same house, the one I chose not to sell, the one Rachel wanted to liquidate. I have my coffee in the garden where the roses are blooming better than ever. I joined a pottery class and discovered I'm terrible at throwing clay but excellent at hand building. I volunteer at the food bank where I used to donate bread from my bakeries. I reconnected with old friends from the business, people who valued me for myself. I think about the money sometimes. The $4.2 million that Rachel never knew existed. I've started using it now. I donated $300,000 to culinary scholarships for single mothers trying to start food businesses. I renovated my kitchen, finally, with professional equipment. I teach baking classes for free every Saturday to kids from low-income families. I took a trip to Italy, something I'd always wanted to do but never had time for when I was running the bakeries. I walked through Florence and ate real Italian bread and felt completely, wonderfully free. People sometimes ask if I'm lonely, living by myself in this big house. I smile and tell them the truth. I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. There's a difference. Being alone means you're by yourself. Being lonely means you're with people who make you feel empty. I spent 3 years being lonely while Rachel ignored me. Now I'm alone, but surrounded by genuine warmth. I know which one I prefer. Last week, I started writing down my recipes, all the ones I developed over 25 years of baking. I'm going to publish them as a cookbook, dedicate it to my husband's memory, donate the proceeds to the food bank. At 67, I'm building something new. My attorney, Betty's husband actually, helped me draw up a new will. The house goes to the food bank when I die, to be sold and used for their programs. The remaining money gets divided between culinary scholarships and the women's shelter, where I've started volunteering. Rachel gets nothing. Not out of spite, but because she already told me what I was worth to her. Some nights I sit in my garden and watch the sunset paint the sky in colors that remind me of bread crusts, golden and perfect. I think about the choices I've made, the daughter I lost, the life I found. I don't regret my choice, not for a moment. Because here's what I learned. Sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is permission to choose ourselves, to say no to people who only take, to build a life that's ours, not what everyone else expects. Rachel will figure that out someday, or she won't. Either way, it's not my responsibility anymore. I have a pottery class tomorrow. I have my baking class for kids on Saturday. I have coffee with Betty and her husband on Sunday. I have a life that's finally, completely, wonderfully my own. And that's worth more than all the money in my bank account. That's worth everything.